the Women's Forum with containment. So for those of you, everyone who knows how to, if you could please contain your head and your energy as a whole, and then whatever device you're using to join the Women's Forum with, if you could please do that, and I'll do it with you. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Alona, I love your backdrop. It's amazingly artful. Wow. All right. So, if I have some ideas as usual for the forum, but if anyone would like to start it off, I'd be happy to go along with whoever has something to share or a question. Okay, I'll just start. So, I started off with hello, fellow consciousnesses, because before I was when Chief was teaching me how to do a forum, he started off like that, and I felt embarrassed at first, like, and I didn't know where that feeling was coming from, but I realized it was whatever density was in me that wanted to stay away from understanding ourselves as consciousness instead of just as women or just as men or just as any gender that you desire. It has limitations. It has a box that they want to put you in. You've met people who are like, oh, you're just a woman, or oh, you know, women, all women act like this, so you must act like that. So if you don't define yourself as a woman, you give yourself freedom to behave any way you want to. Like, I recently learned how to drive stick shift, and in Thailand, a lot of women are like, "Oh wow, you drive stick shift? Like, that's not what women do." And I'm like, "Well, I need to drive." But it's amazing how it just kind of encroaches on you sometimes, the way that we think, without even realizing that we're thinking that way. Like, for example, when Chief used "Hello, fellow consciousnesses," there was also this program of like, where competition, but I didn't know it. Like, I would never, like, if someone would be like, oh, you're competing with Chief, I would never say, I'd be like, no, no, I would deny it. I'd be in total denial. But things like mere consciousness or things like attachments, they're tricky. They think. They're not like some kind of chess piece on a chessboard that can only move one square up or one square to the side or in an L shape. They think. And so they found a way to feed in a certain way just by me using a different word instead of the word that Chief gave first. That's why you'll see a lot of, well, that's why I see a lot of clients that have a struggle with using vortex of no return. They'll like vortex of nothingness, vortex of destruction, vortex of whatever, because it's whatever's inside trying to resist them finding freedom, finding their way out of the matrix, finding their way to evolve past being a non-player character like we talked about last time. And like the story that I shared with you last time that was just wild, there's more to the story, and that's why you see a lot of people behaving in the way that they do. And another thing that came up during the women's forum was that I was thinking about other women's forums and how there's a lot of struggle that consciousness in a female avatar have with male dominance. I remember there were some like comments that are like, how can it be a women's forum if it has Chief on it in the first one or two forums, because he was teaching me how. And they don't understand that I don't respect Chief because he's male. I don't do what he teaches me because he's male. I do it because he's an older consciousness and he has more wisdom that he can share with me that will help me free myself. And that's how I tell people, just to allow Chief to be a compass for yourself, not because he's male, not because he's tall, not because he has someone to look up to. It's not like, oh, I need a pop idol to worship. It's about freeing your consciousness and finding a way out of the the mental confusion, the mental chaos that people have. I remember telling Chief when I first started sessions and telling his daughter that I feel like I'm in a cafeteria and they're a middle school cafeteria, and everyone's screaming at the top of their lungs, and I can't hear myself think. And I remember, I will do anything to make this noise go away. And as I began to listen to the things that Chief would tell me during the sessions that I had, um, every week, and I began to just change little by little. I began to think differently. So if you're feeling like, some people feel that they're only making headway if they're um, making a financial improvement. But actually, the way, everything that you want to improve in your life starts with the way you think. Chief had me change the website. Instead of just saying that he's an energetic detox specialist, he also specializes in mind detox, because the best way to detox your body is to detox your mind, because your body follows your mind. If your mind isn't right, your body can't follow in the right direction. It will only follow wherever the mind is going. I used to hate myself. I used to I used to be in the church, and the church songs alone, they are about not liking yourself. I don't know why Jesus loves me. I don't know why Jesus cares. These kinds of songs, like putting yourself down, you know, I am not worthy, and these songs, I didn't even realize it. I was just like, okay, sing church songs. But then little by little, it just started degrading, like a cheese grater on my consciousness, day after day, singing these songs, and then wondering why I didn't like myself. And then people would tell me, oh, you should have been a man. There's only boys in this church, little boys, so you should have been a man. Or, you're pretty good at fighting boys. Maybe you should have been a man. And that made me dislike myself too. And there's so many reasons. I mean, even in the church, you see that there's things like everything was Eve's fault. She's the one who ate the apple. Or the Pandora's box. Who gave Pandora the box in the first place? Why are you putting that on women? And then, like, yeah, like a woman, goes and eats the cookies that the husband bought, and now she's the villain for eating those cookies, just like that story. So you see that things are put on consciousness to have a female existence, but they also put it on consciousness that have a male existence. For example, um, I've seen women who will use witchcraft, like I've explained, to destroy other consciousness in a male form. Like Chief has had his own situation where he's met a consciousness in a female form that was trying to destroy his life. All the work that he put into to gain lots of money, she would try to waste it and spend it on all these trivial things. Or she would tell Chief's children that Chief wasn't doing anything, or was being lazy, or not caring about them because he wasn't able to go to these certain like events, or like to a baseball game or whatever, because he's lazy, or because of this or that. But he was actually working really hard. And Chief's family even came to support him and said, you know what, kids, without Chief, you'd be living under a cardboard box. But this woman just kept going. She started putting altars in the house to try to weaken Chief, try to use a piece of his hair to make a weird doll to try to weaken Chief, try to dash all his creativity in other arenas like music and other things, try to put him down in public in front of other people, even bring friends over to put Chief down. And so these are examples of how consciousness in a female form can attack other consciousness. So it's not about like, oh yeah, pro women, those guys suck, or oh yeah, pro men, women suck. It's about, I'm consciousness first. I understand that there are consciousness out there that are predators. They are consciousness cannibals. But my goal is to become more than NPC. My goal is to reconnect to supreme consciousness so that I won't be a consciousness cannibal, because I didn't even realize that the density was feeding through me by me just changing the words that Chief would give me and just saying it in a different way. So I was giving it energy because I agreed that it was me. I agreed that that thought that came into my mind was me. Like, oh yeah, my changing of the word is me being creative, me being, different and unique, a rugged individualism. But it was actually me feeding a program that was built into this female avatar. Like, oh, I'm just I'm playing with the words and I'm changing it. I'm being creative. That's a common female program, and it was hard for me to face. I cried because I was like, I'm not a female program, but I had to face it. I was like, no, what if I am? What then? Is it the end of the world? No, I gotta face these issues. I gotta face the way I think. I began to think about, okay, why do I hate myself? One, because I have this expectation of myself that is illogical. I have too high of an expectation of myself. Also, I'm comparing myself to other people. That's another reason why I hated myself. Also, I'm holding on to the past. I'm holding on to what other people said about me. I'm holding on to when people try to frame me for something that they did, or try to frame me for trying to be kind or trying to be compassionate or whatever those programmed words were. Whenever I was also holding on to how the church said, you're a sinner saved by grace. You're just a sinner. You're just a sinner. And I thought, oh man, that contributed to my self-hate. So if you have a feeling that you feel about yourself that you don't want to have, think about, okay, what thoughts contribute to this behavior or this feeling that I have about myself? Okay, so I act like this around this person. How are the other ways that I've ever experienced someone who acts like this? What memories am I still holding on to? Chief had to tell me, you know what, that's someone else's life. When you remember the past and you feel people put you down, or even when maybe you did something, you attacked someone, and you're feeling bad about it, just remember to contain it and to let that go in the vortex of no return, because that's someone else's life, because you're moving in a different direction. That's a version of yourself that you no longer need. Danny gave me a really good question, and it was about visualization. Or Danny, would you like to say it again, the sentence, please?
Am I muted?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. So I think, especially with the energy that's surrounding us lately, maybe in the past few years, the power of manifestation has been, this growing, I would dare say, trend.
Right.
And it's just sometimes I wonder, like, is this just another part of this neo age, this new age mindfulness, or
Yes.
is it actually, I don't know, possible? I don't remember how I framed it. Sometimes
No
I write
problem.
better than I speak.
No problem at all. You said that is it real or is it new age crap? I think that's how it went. And I was like, oh, I think she knows. Well, the thing about when people talk about manifestation, it depends on where they're coming from. It depends on what. So, for example, some people, their manifestation began when they were 2 years old, when they saw a Disney movie, or when they watched their uncle or their aunt. Some people, they want to manifest becoming like someone else, or they want to manifest being something that's very illogical for who they are. Like, there are people who want to be an envoy between China and Thailand, but they're neither gender. They don't know the history. They don't have any experience. They don't know either of the languages. So they're having this dream that is illogical for themselves. And though they put all this energy in manifesting it, it isn't logical for them. It's not logical for them at that time, or maybe they want to be a princess. So their maturity level at that time when they began to want to manifest is literally holding them in time as a young child. So they're carrying that young child energy all through their life. And people might even say, other people might even notice they have a kind of immature energy. They don't evolve because they're trying to drag something from the past all the way to the rest of their life. And sometimes they have midlife crisis, or end of the life crisis, because their desire to manifest came into a crashing like wave on them, the reality that they would never have what they wanted to manifest. And that's what density wants. They get a lot of essence and vitality out of that person because the shock of their reality is torn apart. So when you want to manifest something, you need to come from a place where you're more and more clear. And I don't know any other way to be clear except for doing the process that Chief prescribes. Because everyone else, I see them, they go in a circle. It's all always, they're always trying to manifest a fad, like you said. It's like a fad. Oh, so and so's doing it, I should do it. I remember someone also said, you know, you can manifest the right guy, you can manifest the right job, you can manifest this and that, but they always give you pie in the sky, but no steps to getting there. They always give you this, you know, this dream reality, but no step-by-step guide to getting there. Or if they do, it's very, very like liquid, like you can't, like a gas, like you want to grab it, but every time you grab it, it just comes out of your reach. And I looked at new age websites recently, and it's always like, you're not manifesting because you're not meditating enough. And it's like, you know, you, what, I remember there was some quote about, if you keep doing what you've always done in the same way, expecting different results, that's the description of insanity. And it's so true. And that's why I just usually tell people, just do what Chief says and you'll be all right. You'll change. You'll really change. And change is how you can define getting to this goal that you want to manifest. And also clarity, because sometimes attachments will give you a goal. Oh, like sometimes you'll see in these movies, their goal, romance movies, their goal is to get with that main girl, that high school prom queen. I'm gonna get with her. That's my goal. And they're trying to manifest this, but how many other people are trying to manifest getting with the prom queen? And also, they have a fixed concept of what this prom queen's like. I remember this guy in college, he's like, you know what? You're like Cinderella. I'm like, this guy doesn't know me from anyone. You're like Cinderella. You know that? And I'm just like, oh yeah, why am I why am I like Cinderella? Because you work hard and that's it. And I was just like, I don't understand. You know, and that's just another, you know, fallacy of the New Age movement. They're not giving you all the parts that you need, just giving you pie in the sky. It's what reminds me of being in the church called heaven. You got to do all these things. You got to run really hard. And who knows if you'll go to heaven for real. Because, I mean, one of the sins is to look on a woman or a man with lust. That's a sin. And I've seen people with very handsome physiques or beautiful physiques. I think women's bodies are beautiful. So I felt like I'm for sure going to hell, you know, but I'm working so hard to go to heaven. And it's the same thing with New Age. They'll promise you enlightenment, but they don't tell you any other way but meditating. And they'll tell you so many different types of meditation. I know there was someone who I will just nickname Lemonhead, and this person, he wanted to create a women's forum in the past, but he hates women. And I'm like, why would anyone want to create a women's forum that hates women? But it makes sense if you like to destroy women. And also you're an egomaniac and you feel like women need to follow me. Women need to be behind. Women need to do what I say when I say it, or else they're going to die. And that's this person, because they were trying to get me to join the forum. They said, you will join us. Like, not giving me choices. I'm like, oh, that's a definitely wrong foot to start on. So that's a no. And also just the way that they would push new age on people. There was someone in the last forum who talked to this Lemonhead recently, and then she began to talk like him, using new age concepts like duality. Duality doesn't work because you're trying to bring something that's dense into a vibration that won't allow density. So if you really want to be enlightened, you can't bring the past with you. You can't bring the baggage with you. There's other people who want to be enlightened, but they can't let go of their high school bullies. They can't let go of the guy who molested them. They can't let go of their mom that was a horrible B word. They can't let go of their dad who was a horrible B word. So it's about letting go of the past. There's no duality where you can hold on to what is tearing you apart, what is bringing you down. There's a client that Chief was helping to let go of the poison that Lemonhead had told her to put inside of her body, which he prescribed to both men and women in the form of borax or boron. And Chief said, he has no power. He has no power. He has no power. And the power he took is power that was given to him. And when you understand that that's density's MO, they are bullshit artists. You can look that up in Google and it gives you a really good definition. And that's what density is about. They are bullshit artists. So when someone's like a witch and they're doing things, they get power by those who fear them. Fear is an acquiescence to the program that density pushes on you. So some people, they'll do what their parents say because they're afraid of getting beaten. Or they'll do what their boyfriend says because they're afraid of getting beaten. But if you understand yourself as consciousness, I am a consciousness. This is just my avatar. If you get in a car wreck and you're not hurt, if the car is hurt, that's not you getting hurt, just the car. So if you begin to see yourself as consciousness, they can't play that number on you. Oh, we'll kill you. Oh, we'll chop your arms off. Oh, we'll pull your nails out. The fear is gone. You're not giving them power. You're not feeding them. They feed through fear. That's what war is all about. That's what competition's all about. Fear of losing face. Fear of people thinking bad about me. Fear of being insecure. Fear that I'm going to have to face this illusion of myself that after high school and I'm not, able to compete in competitions and win trophies, who am I then? Fear of not being able to win at life after high school. Some people think, oh, if I can just go to college, then that will change my life. But that's not a guarantee. If you change your mind more than if you just read a bunch of books, that's going to take you places that you've never been before. Because like in the Matrix, it says, the Matrix is a prison for your mind. When you believe in a concept, you feed it. Just like I believed in the concept of prediction. In the past, I was always trying to predict the future. Okay, if I move like this, I can get this. If I run away now, I can get this. Even the concept of me running away, the feeling that I always had to run away was my fear of the density, as if they actually had power. But as I explained in the story in the last session, they had all their power drained from them. That's why they feed. Because if they don't feed on people, if they don't get them to believe in their bullshit artist games, they will literally turn into black ooze, which is like a liquid where they can't move or do anything. They're just in the state of like a coma, but they can think, but they can't go or do anything. So that's why density has set up this realm this way. Set up video games where you're being someone else, being this pop star, being this you're a military guy and you're shooting, and you're getting angry at other players. You're feeding them with this anger because you're believing in this scenario. Like, yeah, I'm doing these things because literally this realm isn't real. What we're playing is literally the most advanced VR on the planet, is what we're in right now. And once you can even fathom that this life might actually be VR, that's when you're trying, really actually moving out. And it's okay if it's really hard to even fathom that. If it just seems like totally insane, it's all right. Take it step by step. Go slowly. I always felt like I need to rush through. I need to get balance. I should just stop doing the women's forum because I'm not totally clear. And Chief's like, don't, you have enough. Just keep going. Just keep going. And and Chief said, you know what? there's two different levels to the women's forum. There's what the women physically hear, what their consciousness physically hear, and then there's the energy and intent that they receive. So those of you who I really appreciate all your contributions and all the effort it takes to be on the forum, you're receiving the primary energy, the primary support when you're on the women's forum. Those who listen to the recording, they receive energy too, but it's secondary. So the chief said, don't worry about it. Your intent is right. You want to help them. You want to encourage them. You want to be there to be like, yeah, keep going. You can do this. And you're not trying to hurt them. You're just trying to show them, oh, that might be a direction that leads to sharks. You can go there if you want to, but this way is not so shark infested. So there's a lot of things that I really want to share, but I have to evolve myself. I had to realize for myself that Chief and his associates, they're like adults, and that I'm very childlike in a lot of the ways that I think because I'm still holding on to the program in a certain way. Competition is very childlike. Like, what are you winning? You're winning nothing. It's like, what you're winning, the fame of, people, fame of other people who couldn't give a rat's butt about you. You're winning this piece of metal that's gonna fall apart, that's called a trophy. It's gonna collect dust. It's gonna hold you to the past. It's like, what am I trying to do? All of these systems that density sets up, in the end, they don't give you anything. Like when you're a doctor, you have this prestige of people who could care less about you. And also you have this money that doesn't mean anything. It's just paper. And then you have all this density lumped onto you because you're touching people who are in trauma. You're reading all this stuff about attachments in the disguise of bacteria. You're trying to scare everyone about bacteria living in every orifice of your body. And it's insane because in the end they promise you and you get nothing. I remember being in a session with Chief, and I had this was an example of the room of doors, and behind one of my room of doors during the session I saw this humongous meat grinder. All the teeth were going and moving, and then there was this golden dust that went curved around and went out towards one part of the meat grinder, and then the golden dust began to disappear. And I was like, Chief's like, do you feel like you can understand this? And I'm like, not at all. Maybe. Well, the dust disappeared, and he said, this is an example of what the church promises you, what school promises you, what college promises you, what the 401k or your job or your savings account or insurance promises you. It's just golden dust that turns to nothing and ends with a meat grinder. And I was like, oh wow, I would have never interpreted that. And that's what I meant by maturity. If I was mature enough, I could have understood that. I could have tapped into an awareness beyond myself, and I could have got that. But I understand the kind of damage that I've gone through, and I had to learn the hard way. When I was at the house that we used to live in, there was a lot of ghost, weird activity in another realm happening at that time. And I was seeing Chief, and this fake Chief would yell at me. This fake Chief would tell me that I'm not good enough, that I don't do anything right, or that I should have did this better. And it was stressing me out, but I tried my best. But I remember I kept trying to, focus on what the real Chief was telling me. And if you ever feel like, you're confused, just focus on what Chiefs wrote in the book, focus on what Chiefs told you in the sessions, and you can make it through. There was a time when I got possessed, and what happened was, when you get possessed, a lot of density comes on you at once by the way you're open. I had armor on, but it was full of holes. And this is for everyone on the planet, except for, in my opinion, Chief. But so the holes that are in your armor, these holes are the way you think. So they were using like my desire to be special, my desire to make a difference, my desire to be a rugged individualist, my desire uh, to believe in archetypes. You know, I saw 5 birds. I saw 10 animals that, 10 cats that came up to my yard. That must mean something. And these weaknesses density used. I remember whenever I got possessed, I was lying outside and there were all these flies that were landing on me. I mean, there was at least 50 to 60 flies on me. And I didn't know what to do. I just lay there and I was like, and then density was like, oh, this is special. You're special. You're this, you're that. And it sounds insane. But when people are possessed, they can't delineate very well. And so they were trying to tell me different things, and they would tell me truth and they would tell me lies. That's the way they roll. In a movie, they might tell you a little bit of truth, but they'll tell you a lot of lies. And if you're the kind of consciousness that wants to believe it all because it's in front of you, they get you. They get you like that every time. So they got me like, okay, you should go to the mall and try to clear it. You should go try to clear that person. You should go try to clear this and clear that. But I did not understand the kind of damage I have. But Chief was able to get through to me. He's like, you are possessed. You need to accept this reality. And finally, when he got through to me, I realized it. And I realized how clear Chief was, because it didn't take him long to just rip off everything that had jumped on me. And it showed me the strength of my energy. And when I came to that understanding, when I came to a reality of where I'm at, then I'm able to grow. A lot of people will be like, but if I'm not special, if I'm not saving Gaia, if I'm not great, if I can't change the weather, if I can't do all these things, then you're making me feel bad. No, I'm telling you where reality is so that you can grow from there. I'm telling you that being a rugged individualist is about the consciousness that created this realm. Supreme consciousness was balanced. All of their expression was yin and yang. So all of their expressions was moving supreme consciousness forward in balance. That's what the yin and yang symbol is about. It's about motion. It's about movement and balance. Because without motion, you can't create, you can't expand, you can't express. So the consciousness that created this realm, he called himself Yin of Yin during that session with a client that Chief kicked his butt and deleted him. He said, my name is Yin of Yin, and I control everything. I can absorb all the density, because they were open to him. Because he decided, I'm going to create an expression that is only yin, because he wanted to be rugged individualist, because he totally messed up his energy. It saturates you to your very bone, to your very marrow, to the very inner part of your consciousness. That's why once you realize where your energy is at, you can just pick up your broken arms and legs and drag yourself in Chief's direction, and you will be fine. But those people who come to Chief and they've got their broken arms and legs and they're like, I'm on your level. You need to teach me what you know. I can be a shaman like you. They can't go anywhere. They can't grow. But when they realize, Chief, I just need help. Look, here's my broken arm. I'm carrying my head. My leg is behind me. But if you could put me together, I'll do what you say, and I'll follow you. I'll get behind you. There's sometimes when people have this yin of yin desire where they're like, did I do that? Did I manifest this amazing thing? Did I manifest this fascinating thing? It's like your alignment with the movement. Your alignment with the Neo Shamanic movement is what's going to manifest amazing things in your lives. And if you're not into self-rugged individualism, you'll experience everything as the whole, as a part of the all. In wildlife movies, you see these schools of fish. There's lots of fish, and they move like one big mass. And the sharks, they're coming. They're looking for those who want to be separated from the school. Once the fish get separated from the main school of fish, they get eaten. And that is how it is with supreme consciousness. If there's those who want to be rugged individualists, show how powerful they are as a wannabe shaman, or a wannabe Reiki person, or a wannabe whatever, or a wannabe New Age specialist, those people can't move forward because they are wanting to be alone and they are being eaten alive by sharks. But because the denial is so strong, because that's yin and yin program, denial, they get eaten alive, but yet they're still clinging on to this concept of being a rugged individualist. Instead, you just learn about Neo Shamanism. Understand, you know what? I am a part of this team. I am moving forward and I respect Chief's leadership. When I finally realized that Chief is the tip of the spear and that spear is just driving its way right through the density, I don't care where he puts me on that spear as long as I'm on the spear. If you are a splinter that sticks up like I'm rugged individualist, they're going to cut it off and you're just going to fall off to the wayside when amazing things are happening. I recently there's been some just incredible information that's been coming through, not just the story that I shared with you last women's forum, but more things which I'll share with you when the time comes. But by the time I probably share this with you, you'll see it in the sky. You'll see it in other places. UFO watching has become more than bird watching these days, and there's a reason for that. And you have an awesome opportunity to get behind something that could change the face of everything. But we just have to take one step at a time. I remember Chief told me, so what's your goal in life? And I was like, to be my higher consciousness. And he's like, that's fine and dandy, but how do you get there? And I was like, I don't know. And then he's like, well, for starters, you should start with not hating yourself. And usually I would immediately have this mirror consciousness that would be like, I don't hate myself. I'm fine with myself. But he's like, name something you like about yourself. And I was like, and I couldn't answer him. I just started crying and I was like, don't cry, you're feeding density, don't cry. But I was beginning to purge. And Chief said, just purge it out. And now think about it. What do you like about yourself? Start with those things. Start with at least 4 or 5 things that you can say, you know what? I like this about myself. I'm loyal. I'm totally loyal. I am very hardworking. I'm very considerate to those who are considerate of Chief. And I'm learning to be considerate about myself. And I can tell that I still struggle with this because I can't even list to you all the 5 things that I said that I really like about myself. And that shows where I'm at, because it should be at the top of my head, the things that I really feel as a core part of myself. I even tried to tell Chief, oh, I like this and this and that about me, but he said, those are skills. Those are abilities. Those aren't the core qualities that make up who you are. If you want to be your higher consciousness, start with respecting yourself. Start with finding out, like, okay, I am very considerate. I'm very determined. I'm very focused. I'm very when I believe, I'm very loyal. So those are the only 4 things. I listed like 7 things, but for some reason those are trying to be blocked from me. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to write those. I'm going to look at them again, because even today, Chief said, use a mantra and say, I am a radial thinker. Even though I don't know what radial thinking really is, I'm going to keep trying. And Chief told me, you know what, a way that you can help you not to understand what linear thinking is you're in a line waiting for something, but you don't even know what you're waiting for. You're just waiting in line because other people are in line, so you figure you should get in line too. And that's how it is in many things. Like, people are in line to go to college. Why? Because everyone else is in line. People are in line to go to church. Why? Because their relatives are in line to go to church. And they, Chief said, they don't even know what's at the end of the line. Radial thinking is getting out of the line and looking and seeing, hey, what's at the end of that? Oh, a meat grinder. Man, I better get out of this line quick. Or, like I've been seeing people at Universal Studios theme park or Six Flags, and they're in line for this ride that no one likes, but it's like everyone else is in line, so I should just ride this ride, even though I don't like riding rides. And that's how a lot of these things, I don't really prescribe to this thought process, but I'm going to get in line because I don't know any other way of thinking. Neo Shamanism is about getting out of line and understanding where the line would have led you to, and going in a direction that doesn't have people in queue, doesn't have people in a line. And it's very hard for most people on the planet. They get angry at you. Why aren't you in line? Get in line. And they don't even know where the line is leading. And I mean, every day, even whenever Chief told me use the mantra, I am a radial thinker. After he told me, I forgot, because something, the density that's inside of me or inside of my energy doesn't want me to think that way. They want you to stay in the box. They want you to stay in line. They want you to believe in makeup makes you beautiful. They want you to believe in nice dresses makes you beautiful. Your consciousness makes you beautiful. Your clarity of energy makes you beautiful. Your desire for balance makes you beautiful. Your desire to reconnect to supreme consciousness makes you beautiful. When I told Chief, "You're beautiful, Chief," and I, because he has an elegance about him, an elegance in the way he carries himself, an elegance in the way he thinks about things, a gracefulness in the way he treats other people, a gracefulness in the way that he is creative with the words. Essence and vitality is what density wants to eat from you. But he had to come up with these words, had to be creative in the way he speaks English, creative in the way that he cooks, creative in the way that he has to deal with every person during sessions, because no session is the same. No person is the same. And he never prescribes the exact same method for anyone. And that's another way you can see that something is real. In New Age, they want to prescribe the same thing for you, meditation. The same thing for you, mind space. The same thing for you, eating certain things, or being vegan. None of those things will really change you. And they talk about monkey mind. I have a list of like what the monkey mind is, unless someone knows off the top of their head. um, I remember certain Lemonhead trying to corkscrew everyone about the concept of the monkey mind, and it was literally about attachments. But they want to make people feel like, oh yeah, that's my monkey mind. When you use the word my, that's a great way to watch yourself, watch the way you speak, watch what you put my in front of. People want to claim other consciousness: my boyfriend, my husband, my wife, my girlfriend, my I understand when you have to use it, because the program out there, the NPCs won't understand you sometimes if you don't use the words they use. But to yourself, you can say, "Oh, I just said my." Like when I said my church, I'm like, I don't want to ever be in a church ever in my life. But I said, yeah, the church, my church that I used to go to. I'm like, whoa, 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 back up. And so I'm like, contain the church, contain any cult members who want me to rejoin the church, contain anyone or relatives that want me to rejoin the cult, contain any memories that are coming up, because I just used the word my. They wanted me to claim that. So it says that the monkey mind is restlessness, stress and tension, insecurity, irritability and reactivity, negative self-talk, low energy levels, fear, poor sleep, self-doubt, regrets, emotional eating, procrastination, all these things. It's not about blaming yourself for my monkey mind. It's about what Chief says, getting attachments pulled off of you during sessions, getting past life expressions pulled off of you in sessions, getting MCs pulled out of you in sessions, getting you freed from different types of density that you are tied to. I had a dream once, if you don't mind me sharing. Um, I had a dream once, and in this dream, I was on this planet that seemed to only have a few buildings, and these buildings were skyscrapers, like business skyscrapers. And outside there were sidewalks, and then there was some grass, but the light that was shining on this small planet was so bright, and I could see light beings, but they were huge, massive, and the size of the sky. And every few minutes, there would be this huge banging sound, boom, and the buildings would shake. And then I remember standing outside and I was looking around and Tom Cruise walks up. And I'm just like, dude, why are you out here? You should probably go inside the building where it's safer. And he looked really disoriented. And I was just like, okay. Anyway, dude, I'm leaving. So I went inside the building. And inside this building, half of the building was a business auditorium, and half of the building was a wooden church, like the kind of churches that are renowned in the past for being completely made of wood. And in this auditorium was all different types of dense entities: witches, demons, goblins, ghouls, um, warlocks, sorcerers, everything, you name it, it was there. And they were all angry and they were yelling and they were screaming and they were like, arguing with one another. And then there was this one witch-like woman. She had this long cape and some kind of purple or red clothing. And she said, me and my people are going to leave. And there was a stained glass window on the wooden side of the church, and her people tried to escape out of that stained glass window. And I was like, I don't belong here. I don't even know why I'm here with all these entities. So I like took the nearest hallway and I started walking. And this one demon went to the bathroom and he was coming from the bathroom and he looked at me and he was like, hi, how are you? And I was like, hi. And then he was like, so what dense entity faction do you belong to? And I'm just like, I don't know. And I ran, I walked faster actually. And then the dream ended. When density sees you, they only see you a lot of times as the density that's connected to you. Like when you watch the movie Hunger Games, you see that there's two representatives from um, each district. There's 13 districts, I believe. So each one of them has a district that they represent. Every person that you see on the planet, usually 99.9 times out of 10, 99.9 times out of 100, they have a faction of density they belong to. So usually people who are dedicated NPCs and even regular NPCs, they have this density that's driving their vehicle. And sometimes they don't have control of their vehicle. So they say and do anything that the faction of density they represent wants them to do. Lemonhead was one of these sorts of people. His job was to poison people, poison their mind, poison their bodies, weaken them, and then feed off of them after Chief would pump them up with more energy, help change their mind, and then they would try to bring the energy back down. But they couldn't undo everything that Chief was doing. So they were getting more angry, trying to send people who were on the verge of death, trying to send people who were perverted. I had a time where I was lying on the table, and sometimes when I'm empathing clients, I can't move because my body is being the density is so heavy that I can't move my body. And so I was empathing this guy, and my body was so heavy, and Chief had to go wash his hands from the density that wants to crawl up his arms, and he washed it off. And this guy was like, hey, you need some help? Want me to help you up? I'm like, don't you dare touch me. And I was just like, oh, I'm fine. I'm doing fine. And then I try to stall so that Chief could come back. And as soon as Chief came back, I grabbed Chief's hand and I was like, please help me. This guy is weird. And this is one of the people that Lemonhead was sending because he was trying to sabotage Chief, because Chief was really making a difference in all these people's lives, really changing the energy, not just of them, but of the faction of density that they represent, taking that out. When Chief takes out the density that someone is representing, it changes things on Gaia. Because if you think about Gaia as a consciousness too, right? This planet is her body. Just like you have attachments, I have attachments, I have MCs, we have MCs. The people on the planet who are dedicated NPCs represent attachments. What's connected to them also represent the attachments on Gaia. And Gaia is trying to get better. And the Neo Shamanic movement is a part of Gaia getting better. And anyone who doubts that should have a session, because after that they most likely change their mind unless they're a dedicated NPC, and then denial kicks in. But if you want to be a part of that, as long as you are following Chief in a respectful way, you'll get to go along for this amazing ride. People want to feel like New Age. They talk about my spirit guides, my spirit guides. What about my spirit guides? And sometimes they have zero spirit guides. What they have is ghosts, and the ghosts are feeding on them. Ghosts are really strange. They're living out their lives, but they're not alive, and they don't always realize it. Like, there's been amazing stories, or just really strange stories, where like a woman who was angry that her husband got a new wife, so she poisoned the new wife, and then the new wife dies, and this ghost is hanging around poisoning people who are now living in that house to this day. So because this ghost is trapped in time. So it's like, do I have spirit guides? No, you actually have some ghosts that are just hanging around you because they think that you're the new wife, or the new this. And see that many times with other people. There's some really perverted ghosts that are hanging around someone because they're feeding on that woman, or they're feeding on that man, or the we had an experience where there was a ghost who felt his lover would come back from war, and he would attack anyone who came in this room because he only wanted his lover to come back. And every person would get attacked. There's so many things that are happening on the other side. And I just am so happy to share that with you, so you can be more aware of, like, when you have a weird feeling, like you walk into a room and there's no one there, but you have this vibe like there's a creepy feeling. You just contain it, because it's something trying to get you to believe that it's a dangerous thing, to believe in that has more power than you, or to believe that you're so powerful that it can't affect you. That's also another swing of the thing. So just contain it and be like, I don't care. I'm going to ask Chief when I have a session. There's like, we have clients who are doing really well at, like, when they express to Chief, I have some ego issues. I really feel like sometimes I really want to be known for something, or be very special, or, that people would know my name, or that I won't be forgotten. But that's a yin of yin program, because his energy was stripped from him for creating this realm that destroys consciousness, but yet he wanted to be known for it as something special. So she was saying that when she struggles with this, she just holds the presses and doesn't make any assumptions that she's doing anything, and she asked Chief. And Chief said, don't worry, just understand that when something happens to you, or when you make an improvement in your life, you are aligning with the movement, and that is what's propelling you forward. So it's when we contain things and, wow, amazing things happen, that's using Chief's tool. There's people who come to Chief and they want to make their own schedule. They want to tell him what days he can have off and what days he can work, and that kind of attitude gets you kicked out, and they don't have containment anymore. They don't have any tools that he's giving them anymore, but they still want to come back and be like, you're on my level, you need to do what I say, you need to give me sessions whenever I want them. And I was like, oh, I don't understand. But it's because people can get so locked into a mentality, just like in the video games. You'll see the characters, they have their own backstory, and they don't know anything else but their backstory, their little lives. That's all they know. And if you're trying to step out of line, if you're trying to step out of the box that everyone's in, sometimes they'll try to pull you back into the box. That's what family is about, pulling you back into the box. That's what boyfriends and girlfriends and husbands and wives are about, pulling you back into the box. That's what friendship's about, pulling you back into the box. Chief and I, we don't believe in friendship. We don't believe in family in the way that it's described, because it's always about feeding. And instead, I remember light beings, they were expressing something to me, which I confirmed with Chief. They said, what's the use of family or friends if the whole goal is to be a cell in the same body? How can you get any closer than a cell in the same body? How can you be more respectful and considerate than a cell in your own body? That's how Supreme Consciousness sees each other when in the balanced realms. You're a part of me. I'm a part of you. Why wouldn't younger consciousness respect older consciousness? Why wouldn't older consciousness respect younger consciousness? Because we're all a part of the same body. That's how things are supposed to work. That's why this realm is so crazy. You've got younger people disrespecting older people. You've got older people disrespecting younger people. And it's just chaos everywhere. We've got women hating women, men hating men, because they don't see themselves as consciousness in the same body. They see themselves as separate, rugged individualists, not a part of the whole. And that's what yin and yin was about. He separated himself by lowering his vibration to where he could not be a part of the whole. He could not understand being balanced anymore because he went and became yin of yin. And that's what you'll see all over the place. These copies, these duplicates of yin everywhere. I don't care about you because this is your race and I'm this race. Or I don't care about you because you're not a man and I'm a man and I'm a man's man. I don't care about you because you're a woman and you're after the same man that I'm after. And it's like not being considerate about, you're going after this man, but what if this man has different tastes than what you've got going for you? You're not being considerate of that guy's desire for companionship. And then again, people want friends. I want friends. I want friends. But what about the companion that's closest to you, which is your body? Your closest companion, my closest companion, I didn't respect. When I used to play sports week in college, I would slide my knees on the concrete just to grab a ball. I would slide my knees on the concrete just to score a goal because I didn't have respect to my closest companion. And yet I was doing all this, what, to make friends in college? What about my closest companion as consideration and respect? Yet I'm trying to make friends with these people who don't like me. They don't care about me. They're jealous of me. They hate me. That their goal is. I remember one person in college. They were like, there was this person who would take pictures of college students for modeling gigs, and this woman had already had pictures with this particular photographer, and he asked me to take pictures with him, and she told me, oh, he's digging at the bottom of the barrel with you. And this is a person that I had spent a lot of time with and that I respected as as a president of the class that I was in, but yet she was putting me down because I didn't realize that she was actually jealous of me, because I wasn't respecting myself. I wasn't showing respect and consideration for myself because I was so focused on friends. I was so focused on, being known. I was so focused on winning for the sake of nothing. And if there's any time where you feel like there's these goals and ambitions that you have, you can break it down. When did I start having this goal and ambition? Does this goal and ambition have attachments connected to it or MCs connected to it? Is this goal defining me as consciousness, or is it defining me in a box? Is this goal or ambition that I have created by comparing myself to other people's lives? Like, you have little kids who are like, I'm going to be the president. And that's encouraged. Like, oh, wow, you have really high aspirations and goals. But it's still within the box. It's still within the Palladian program of, okay, you're only an artist. You're only a dancer. You're only this or that. And it keeps you restricted. She said that one of the books that we're considering titling, The Book of Limitations. Everything is encouraging you to be limited. I know that I've referred to it before, but they always refer to superpowers as limited. Like, I can be invisible, but only for 30 minutes, and then suddenly everyone will see that I'm naked. It's just like all these things. Or even the concept of being naked, which we've talked about before. I had this dream where I was in the backyard of this house, and suddenly these cops pull up, and they get out, and they're like coming towards me, and I'm like, I don't know what's wrong. But then suddenly I look down, and I don't have any pants on, just my shirt. And I was like, okay. And so I feel like I need to get away quickly. So I start walking. Uh, it shows that I've changed a lot, because before I would have ran, because that's how afraid I was of certain things in my dreams. But this time I just walked away, and then the police officer suddenly teleported right in front of me. And I'm just like, okay, now what do I do? And they're like, you're going to prison for being naked. And I'm like, what? I can get some clothes on. And then and then they said, no, you should have thought about that before you did this to your friends. And they were trying to push this guilt energy on me. And literally, I'm like, this is retarded. Really, right? Why should I feel guilty for being naked in a dream? And but you can see that with other people. They want to make you feel guilty for living your life in another country. They want to make you feel guilty for being for trying to make a living outside of America, or outside of, certain places. They want to guilt trip you into not having a husband, because you don't have a husband, or you don't have a boyfriend, or you don't have a girlfriend, or however they do it. They push that guilt on you. And if you accept it into your energy, you're accepting their density inside of you. Whenever they try to make you feel guilty, like, oh, you don't, you're not believing in corona, you're weird, then they're trying to tap into your insecurity. They push that energy at you. Insecurity. Oh, you're not believing what everyone else thinks. Oh, you believe in aliens, you're weird. They push that on you. Oh, you believe in in the universe is um much more expansive, that there's life on other planets, you're weird. And when you accept that, you're accepting being put in a box. You're accepting being contained. You're accepting their limitations. You're defining yourself with their limitations. So in the end, I was thinking, like, this is bogus. You can't go to prison for being naked, especially when you didn't even get a warning or anything. And so I began to contain them in the dream, and I began to use the second type of containment that Chief teaches to those who are very consistent with containment. He will do applied kinesiology to see whether you're ready for the next type of containment, and it has to do with containment itself is like a shield. The second type of containment is like an offensive weapon. So I used the second type of containment, which is like an offensive weapon, and this guy began to scream. And I began to contain the next police officer, and he got nervous too. And suddenly they changed me into another dream. I thought I was going to wake up, but I was in a bed in a different room. And then they had this visual of someone looking like my mother unit. And immediately, because my mother unit represents the cult, my mother unit represents prison for me, my mother unit represents bondage, my mother unit represents control, trying to keep me in the box. So my immediate reaction is to try to cut the illusion of her, because density and their power is an illusion. And you can use that mantra. They have no power. They have no power. They have no power. And the power they took was given to them. Everything that you see, when you see demons, when you see gargoyles, when you see all these things, they have energy only because they get it from the followers. They get it from the faithful. They get it from the masses. Like, for example, whenever you see concerts, like with pop stars and things, they are receiving all that energy because that person is believing in them, giving them all their essence and vitality. And they take that essence and vitality and feed the density that they represent. That, just like in the Hunger Games, the District 12, like the District 11. So that pop star is literally feeding District 11, feeding District 12, feeding District 10. And that's why they need so much essence and vitality, because they have a lot of mouths to feed. Density runs in packs. They're cowards. They don't stand alone. When you face something, you're facing a bunch of minions together. And they feed their bosses. So they're taking the essence and vitality and feeding it to their bosses. And then their bosses are feeding their bosses. all the way up to what used to be the yin of yin until Chief popped him. But there's a lot of density still that needs to be popped. So it's best to be on your guard and do your containment. um, I've talked for a while. If you have a question, I'd love to answer it. if if you don't, no worries. There was a movie recently that I don't know if you're referred to as there's a movie called Pacific Rim, and it has they've had a second edition Pacific Rim 2, and it has in the first movie Pacific Rim, if you watch the whole thing, towards the end of it, it talks about how the whole reason why there's these things they call kaiju, which look like giant monstrous dinosaurs or something like that. And the whole theme of this movie is that the dinosaurs or the kaiju are trying to get to this volcano so that they can explode it or something like this, and then the ashes will terraform the whole planet for aliens to come in and take over. And people think, ha, that's a good movie. Oh, ha, that's so funny. But they've literally been doing that to every planet that Yin of Yin has come in contact with, that he felt that he could control. So that's what happened to Gaia. That's why things are so weird. Gaia was meant to be a beautiful garden planet. So what they had to do first was to terraform the planet with gas. It's kind of like black ooze, but it's its own type. And it literally made the atmosphere on Gaia more suitable for dense entities. Their vibration is low. That's why people, their vibration of their avatar is the lowest vibration in the universe. That's why our job is to change our mind. Our job is to change the way we think so that our vibration can change. A lot of people think that if I'm meditating or I'm vegan or I'm doing these I'm exercising, I'm doing all these things that I feel are right, that's going to change, but their mind has never changed. That they will never change their vibration, and they will never reconnect to supreme consciousness. They'll always be NPCs. But now you see that they've created these avatars that we have because they cannot feed off of something that's vibrating too high. They cannot feed off of Gaia if she's vibrating in such a high vibration, because they're like druggies. Dense entities are like drug addicts. Like, I don't know if you ever heard about heroin needs to be stepped on so that people can inject it. If it's not stepped on, if it's not weakened, if it's too potent or too pure heroin, it can kill someone. They can overdose in a flash. But if it's stepped on, then they can take it, every so often. They'll kill themselves slowly. But that's how dense entities are. They need the low vibrating people. They need dedicated NPCs. They need NPCs in general, because they are the process of stepping on the energy of Gaia, stepping on the energy of the consciousness that is the battery, so that they can feed. They use people like batteries, and when they're done, they're just like empty battery cells. Like, that's what black ooze is, just empty battery cells. And when people define themselves as people, as humans, they keep themselves in the matrix. Like in the movie The Matrix, you see that there's a person lying down and they've got all these like cords stuck into them and stuff. That's literally what we look like. But these cords, they represent what you believe about the matrix. They represent the job you believe in. That's your identity. They represent the boyfriend that you believe is completes your soul. They represent the girlfriend you feel that you have to have. They represent the money you feel is necessary. It is necessary, but it might not be as necessary in the future. So not feeling so desperate about it. That the desperation for it is the part that is connecting you to the matrix. The feeling like, if I die, that it's over for me. Believing that there's no other existence except this life is a connection to the matrix. Believing if someone can, there's a new law in California or something that rapists if they rape someone and that person decides to abort the baby, then they can sue them for aborting the baby or something really crazy. And right, it triggers a feeling. It triggers a feeling. So the fact that anything can trigger you to have an emotion is a connection to the matrix. Those are what holds you down. That's what destroys consciousness, is the belief in their system, belief in staying in the line, belief in any kind of concept, the believing in the concept of beauty, that you have to be this color, you have to have plump lips, you have to have big eyes. I've seen a lot of Asians and they go get surgery. That's their connection to the matrix. But that's why whenever Chief teaches about Neo Shamanism, it's about pulling those plugs out of you, even if it hurts. Even if you have to pull it slowly, just pull it. And like today, when I realized, what, me changing Chief's words was competition, was that winning program, that I need to win. Like even recently, I've been releasing the times that my mother unit has physically hurt me, taken me to a dentist that was ripping my teeth out so hard that my head was shaking back and forth, like literally pulling my tooth and shaking it around. And you know what? She would say, "Oh, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. I didn't know that that person would do that to you." But she stood next to me while the whole situation was happening. She represents the district of density that I was used to be connected to. So I had to let go of that hatred of her. And literally, I was pulling out a plug of energy and throwing it away. But yet I was holding on to the concept, like, if I release all this hatred of my mother unit, then I will be able to drain the energy out of the density that represents her, and then she will be no more. I was literally holding on to the concept of winning. I need to win. I need payback on the church. I need payback on the cult that I was in. The payback on the cult that hurt me, that brought in people who molested me, that brought in that every time we had church, that I had to fight people who were molesters, people who were pedophiles, that I felt like I had to protect myself constantly. I wanted revenge. So even though I was letting go of hatred, I was holding on to the concept of revenge. I was holding on to the concept of winning, the concept that I need to beat this person. So even now, sometimes there's this feeling of crying. So I had to let go of the concept of self-pity, feeling sorry that I was molested many times, feeling sorry that I had to live in a trailer park where it was poor. I had feeling sorry for myself that guys always wanted to beat me up, feeling sorry for myself. I had to release that, and it was very painful. Even now, I struggle because the body wants to cry. It wants to do the programming, but I'm teaching my body, no, we don't cry. No, we don't feed density. No, we don't hold on to competition. I am consciousness first. I'm desire to be a balanced consciousness. I am a balanced consciousness, even if I'm not there yet. I'm a balanced consciousness. I'm a radial thinker. I will be my higher consciousness. I am my higher consciousness, even if I'm not there yet. I have respect and consideration for myself, even if I'm not totally there yet. But because you're retraining your body, you're retraining starting with your mind. That's how you retrain your body. When your body realizes that you have respect and consideration from your mind, it will then begin to help your body flow to be proper. When I hated myself, I had something called eczema. And eczema, for me, the rashes was like my skin was getting eaten, and no matter what I put on it, it wouldn't heal. It was like eating its own skin. And that's how I felt about the way that I had hated myself. It was like I was consuming myself. And I've seen that with a lot of consciousness that hate themselves. They eventually begin to feed on themselves. They eventually no longer need anyone else to insult them because they're insulting themselves first and more than anyone else. And it begins the decay of the body because the body will give in to the mind. and say, you don't like yourself, then let's die. Then let's die. Then let's die. And parts of the body begins to shut down slowly but surely, because the more the body and mind begin to think with the same thought of hating itself, also more density is attracted to that, because you're just feeding, you're feeding, you're feeding, you're feeding. And consciousness that believe that lifetime after lifetime, they tap themselves out. Their battery is no more, because they acquiesced to the program and believed it was them, and then eventually it destroyed them completely. So the real destruction. We have a question?
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt. I wanted to
No problem.
that. Okay. So are you saying that crying is a reaction to feeding of density? So is crying a negative uh, response to density?
Right, exactly. So, for example, as I expressed in the last women's forum, the avatars that you see, all of the human bodies you see all over the planet, have all been modified, because if the body was actually high vibrating, it would not fit in the matrix. You couldn't, like in the movie The Matrix, they hooked you up with all these, like, cords and wires and things. The body that you see all over the planet, they've already been hooked up. So they had to be vibrating low enough to be put in a pod. If you're vibrating too high, you can't be put in the pod. So the fact that we are even here means that our avatars are vibrating low. So there's already programs within these manipulated bodies to feed density. That's why you feel pain. The normal communication of a body that is not vibrating low does not communicate with pain. It communicates with a sensation. It might be an intense sensation, but it's not super uh, unpleasant like pain is. Pain is because density feeds off of pain. So they made your body have the only way to communicate with you is pain and sensing things. So it makes people want to hate their body. But it's like the body is like gagged, like literally like bound, and the only way it can talk to you is through pain. So sometimes it's the density has created crying as a way to open up the valve wider for your essence and vitality to seep out. Sometimes that it is connected to, it can be a purge, but to purge in a place where density has free access to makes it a feeding issue. But if you're crying during a session with Chief, you're in a safe environment. Chief and associates that work with him, they are watching. So when you're crying during a session, it's not going to feed density. You're releasing something. It's all right. You can cry. We don't judge. We're not critical of anyone who has to cry during a session, because that's the safest place. And it brings density to the surface, because it's literally a dinner bell. So density will come up to the top, and they're like, ooh, I have my spoon and fork and my plate. I'm ready. And that's why. So if you're going to cry, you can, contain the feeling that makes you want to cry. Because for me, it was always self-pity. Feeling sorry for myself. And at first, I didn't want to admit that it was self-pity, because I was like, I'm a strong woman. Why would I have self-pity? Those were literally horrible things that happened to me. But if you are consciousness, literally in a pod, literally in a VR system, was it really something horrible that happened to you? If you're actually consciousness, was it really only something that happened to you in the video game? Like in the video game Mortal Kombat, they cut you up in all sorts of pieces and everything. But when you're playing the video game, do you cry when the video game avatar gets its head cut off? No, because it isn't you. You're playing it. So if something's happening to you in the physical, you can help your mind by saying, I am consciousness. This is just my avatar. I am an eternal consciousness. They can't harm me. Even if I lost my arm, I'm still consciousness, and I can still reconnect to supreme consciousness, and I can still see my way out of this crazy realm, and they will not keep me down. They will not turn me to black ooze. And that is a victory. That starts to free you from the real you, which is your consciousness, which is what's really happening to you. So when you begin to change your mindset and see, like, okay, I'm crying. This is the avatar's response to something that's programmed to me. But I'm going to pull back and realize what I am. Consciousness first. Like in in the new age thing, they say remember who you are. But they have no reference of remembering who they are because they still define themselves as women, as men, as this, as that, or as some like I as some great celestial being. But are you really? Is it just in name? Like when Chief said, "Oh, you want to be your higher consciousness," but really, it's just in name that you say that, Miss A, because you don't really like yourself. That's the first step for you to become your higher consciousness is to find out what's your core qualities that you like about yourself. And you might need to ask that in a session. Chief, are these things my core qualities? Can I respect and consideration for myself with these being my core qualities? Because sometimes they can be attachments, they can be encouraged by mirror consciousness, things like that. But when you understand that Chief said, he told me it's not realistic for me to say that I want to be my higher consciousness if I have if it's like being on a ladder and saying that I want to get to that top of that ladder, but I'm not willing to climb the ladder. I'm not respecting and considering myself. I can't even remember why I like myself, but yet I want to be my higher consciousness. He said there's no connection. You need to start where you are instead of just pie in the sky like New Age, step by step, step by step. Do containment. Think about what I'm saying when I'm saying it. Where am I using the word my? Where am I making something that's a part of the program my identity? Fighting that way. The mind is the most important thing. Chief told me he said, "You know what my greatest weapon is? My mind." Because the way Chief thinks scares density. That's why he's so notorious on the other side. If people were able to truly be someone who could see on the other side, they would be able to see Chief. They would be able to see his support. And that support will support you if your mindset is like, I want to be aligned with the movement, with the Neo Shamanic movement. They will give you the support you need to change your mind. They will help you through the thoughts that you need to think to change your mind so that you can change your avatar, so that you can change your vibration, so that you can change your life. A lot of people, they want to change their lives, but they don't want to change their mind. They don't want to change their vibration. They don't want to change their habits. You know, like you always find people want to say, "Oh, this is my favorite thing. This is my habit. This is do you have a healthy habit?" But habits keep you rigid. If I always eat this thing on this day, I always do this thing on this day, density can predict you. Chief Stoddard told me, don't always go to the same place at the same time all the time. That's how predators even do. Like some women, they'll always run at 5 a.m. at this park, um, and they're always run on this track in the park. So predators, people who enjoy that kind of behavior, they know where to find that woman. If they wanted to try to kidnap her, they could bring a bunch of guys and try because she's predictable. And that's how it is when people have habits that they can't break or habits that are so ingrained with them. Density can predict you. Density can figure you out. So with neo shamanism, it's about being fluid. It's about being flexible. It's about being able to evolve, expand, express yourself in a way that is radial. Like when Chief said, I'm a radial thinker. That's about getting out of a habit. I remember Chief would make he would make a dish, and then I would be like, oh, I bought the food for eating this tomorrow, and then the next day, and the next day, and the next day, because that's how my life was programmed. You eat mac and cheese on Friday, Taco Tuesdays, this and this, you eat on Thursday, and this creates routine. this creates rigidness, and this makes people robots, like NPCs. I must do this thing. I do this on Saturday. I do this on Sunday. You can shake it up. Try something new. Like Helona, she's doing a watercolor painting, and it's amazing. I love seeing that. That's learn new things that aren't, and learn it in a way where it's not your identity, but this is how I'm expressing myself. I'm learning how to be creative in this way. I'm learning how to be creative in this way. I'm learning how to be creative, like even Chief said, with English, using consciousness cannibals to define people who are dedicated NPCs, to define density, using creative words, using creative ways of explaining Neo Shamanism to someone, using creative ways to show people by example. You know what? I'm not going to get all up in your business. I'm going to live my life in such an amazing, free, and flexible and creative way that you'll want to follow me. You'll want to go, be a part of the Neo Shamanic movement. You'll want to change your life. You'll want to change your mind. And, sometimes clients, they'll try to call me or, try to message us with all this like daily diary stuff, like, all up. That's another way people feed. So this is another thing about witches. Lemonhead was a witch, or a male witch, because he would always try to get up into people's business. Know every single detail of your life. Did you go to the bathroom 5 times today? If you didn't, you're gonna die. That kind of thing. And that's they want to get into your energy. Witches, they like to get into your energy. They like to feed you things. Oh, I made you this chocolate paste. You need to eat it, because he represents District 12. District 12 wants to feed on you. Best way to do that, eat my stuff. Because you're literally, I'm accepting this energy from someone else into my body, into my avatar, especially when you believe your avatar is you. So then that is becoming a part of you and dispersing through your avatar, which you are defining as.
I'm sorry, Miss A. I accidentally muted your mic. Sorry.
You're still muted. You need to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that.
All right, can you hear me now? Okay, great.
Yes, thank you. Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that.
Can I just say something? So with Lemonhead, it was like the same thing of making sure that we did our sunrise and sunsets meditation each day. You've done your stretches and done all this, and if you haven't, then you're just failing.
Yes, you're failing. And it's always, a lot of time, witches, they'll want you to do what they prescribe to you so they can feed on you. Chief isn't feeding on you because he has all the energy he needs, and he could just be the Neo Shamanic movement all on his own and not share it with anyone. Literally. So Lemonhead feeds his district by getting you to do exactly what he says, the way he says it, when he says it. That's how witches work too. They can also, like I said, they want to feed you because they want to put that energy into you. But also, witches will sometimes use a representative to try to get at you. Someone who, and you can sometimes tell the representative is from that witch because they will act like that person. They will talk like that person. They behave like that person. They will push the same programming like that person. And you can see that with they'll, like, people who would talk to Lemonhead, they begin to use the words that he says. They begin to behave like he says. They begin to like speak a night, like say amazing things about this Lemonhead. Whenever Chief pulls out all the corkscrews that he puts in your energy, you're like, that guy was really mean to me. he was really rude to me. He was putting me down. He was saying sexual things. He was really disrespectful. And, you know, when you can think for yourself, you're like, oh, man, what was he doing to me? And, you know, but when you're under the spell, it's like, he's amazing. He's amazing. And that's what yin of yin is about. He puts his corkscrews in people's mind. So they're like, I'm a doctor. I'm a businesswoman. I am a rugged individualist. And so that's part of how it works. They'll also, like, for example, sometimes witches will use representatives because maybe you don't like them, but they'll find someone in your realm of influence, or you're connected to, that you like, that you have a soft spot for, and they'll begin to target that person to target you. So they're literally doing a secondary feeding. So they have, like, someone you like that's your relative, like for example, my mother unit. There was a person in the college that I liked. She we got along pretty well. And then suddenly my relatives took interest in this person and began to invite her on all the trips and things like that, because they could feel that I was trying to get away from them secretly. I was trying to figure out, okay, I need to learn Thai. I need to do this and that so I can escape the church, escape. But then they're like, oh, but she's not going to let go of her friend. We can still feed on her through her friend. If I were to literally keep up with that friend and keep talking to that friend and keep hanging out with them, they could still feed on me because I'm open to her. So they are feeding on me through who I'm open to. So that's why we don't want to be open. We want to contain them because they could literally be secondary feeders.
Sorry, I'm now realizing I met someone who was definitely from Lemonhead. the other day, and they came to me because I was containing my food, and so they walked over to me and went, "Are you clearing energy?" And I went, "Yes, I am." And then they asked what I was doing, so I went into it a little bit, and then they started saying things that I know is not what we're about and is new age crap. But I didn't feel in a place where I could say what that isn't, you know, or anything. I just sort of sat quietly. But then looking back at it now, all of a sudden, then this person had bought things to give to Marley and was like, this is for Marley, this is for Marley, this is for Marley. And I contained and everything. And I was like, okay. And I was containing everything. And everything, the moment it got back, was stuck in a container with flour, salt water, and lid sealed and put outside. But at the end of it, the way I got this person to leave me alone was I basically gave them your Facebook. I was like, you should see Chief and Miss A. I was like, this is the people, there they are. You know, if you want to know what I do, here it is. I've got to go now. Bye-bye.
Right, diversion. And I don't think those people ever hit us up. So you can tell what they were really after.
I'm realizing now. At the time I was like, what's going on? But now what you said has helped me realize. So thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And you can also take it a step further. I believe this is me learning aspects of radial thinking, because Chief has really been a great example of it. So I'm gleaning what I can and I'm sharing that now with you. So take it a step further. So there's people who are secondary feeders, for example, for like a witch, but physical objects can be secondary feeders. So the mother unit represents, the cult represents maybe District 12 or whatever of density, but she buys me a purse that I like, or buys me a perfume that I like, buys me something I use every day, something that I put energy into. And then people are like, oh, I like the way you smell. So now I'm getting attention from other people. So then I try to buy that same brand of perfume over and over and over. So I'm still feeding the mother unit, still feeding her density. So I had to chuck out all the stuff that the relatives had got me because secondary feeding. Ugh. And my mother unit, she's not a witch. She doesn't have those skills, but the density that's backing her does. District 12 or something of density that represents my mother unit, they are the witches. They are the people who do those things. And my responsibility in terms of respect and consideration for myself is to not fear them, because they have no power, they have no power, they have no power. The power they do have was given to them. If I believe that my mother unit has power over me and that she can take me back into the cult and force me back into prison in any way, I'm feeding them with fear. I'm feeding them with the trauma, because I'm not letting it go as someone else's life. That trauma was someone else's life. That time where my head was shaken around by the dentist while she stood there was someone else's life. And when I did that, it frees you. It's pulling out those wires from being in the matrix pod, pulling out those wires. And, sometimes if you pull out a lot, it can really wig you out. So it's best to do it right before a session because it can make you feel strange, because there's density still trying to get back in. They're like, oh man, she's pulling out wires. Ugh. So they'll try to find another avenue in. They'll find another avenue in to where where I won't even realize that I'm feeding them. Like whenever I said I felt like letting go of this hatred for the mother unit was freeing myself, but I was holding on to the concept that I want revenge on her. Sorry. Any questions?
This, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So this resonates with me because as of late, I've consciously noticed that whenever I have memories of people who have wronged me or something like that, I go into a mode of feeling sorry for myself, and then it starts bringing up more memories of other people who have wronged me, and then I fall into a pattern of this always happens to me. And so
Right.
when I feel that self-pity, that's where I notice I fall into patterns of overeating to sort of, um, I guess, self-medicate to make myself feel better. But it doesn't really make me feel better. I just feel sick because I've eaten too much.
Right. That's amazing. You're doing exactly what I was talking about understanding your pattern of behavior or dissecting the way you're thinking about things so that that's the first step of really transforming your existence, your vibration, your mind, is that exactly figuring out why we do what we do, why we think what we think, when things started, when did it start, when did this behavior begin, how is my what is the pattern of my thinking process when I spiral into a certain emotion that makes me want to cry or makes me feel sad or makes me depressed, what thoughts led up to that. And thank you very much for sharing that. That's really great. um I totally would do that. Like soup was a really was something that I really felt comforted in. And I remember, like I shared with you before, one time Chief made soup and I literally almost ate the whole thing. And he got like 2 bowls of it. And I was like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Because, I struggle with the program of sorry. Because the church was really into, you're not forgiven by Jesus if you're not sorrowful. You're not, if you don't have a sorrowful heart, God will not respect you, or he won't respect that you really changed or not. And so I had to do like you did and dissect, okay, where did this come from? What were all the times where I ever said sorry? Why did I say sorry? Like whenever I was growing up, my father unit, whenever I'd make a mistake, like I forgot to clean up or I forgot to sweep or forgot to do that, he would behave as if I sinned against the Lord because I didn't clean under my bed or something like that. And I had to dissect all those parts. But whenever, that's also an amazing example, Helona, of facing yourself, facing that there are programs that are painful even to say sometimes. But once you get over that hump, it gets even easier. And then it gets easier to face other issues, to face other programs. And and you begin to pull one wire out after the next. And eventually you pulled out so many wires that density's like, I don't know what to do. And they might try something like wild or crazy, but then you just take that story and share it with Chief, and he puts the whoop ass on them, and then you keep going and you just move forward. That's the story of my life right now. But it can be that way for, I like sharing it with other people because I really love to see you change, to hear your stories of transformation. That's another reason why I don't believe in New Age and I don't believe all those things, because I've never seen them change. They always have the same hang-ups, the same depression, the same sadness. And like you said, they believe that this is always going to happen to them, so it does. Your mind believes it will happen again, so density can manifest it because you're giving them energy to manifest this reality. So whatever you believe in, a lot of times, especially the negative stuff, they will manifest it for you because you're giving them the energy to do so. It's like the vampire can't come into your house and feed on you unless you open the door and say, come in. You have to invite them in. And you know, vampires, they're the living dead. Density has no energy without other consciousness giving it to them, because they should not exist in the universe. And that's what you're seeing when it comes to Sirius B and other consciousness that are associates. They are moving this movement forward. And Chief is the tip of the spear, and that's why they support him, because this movement won't stop. And those who want to stay on board have to realize that when these things are happening in their lives, just hold on to the concept, I'm aligned with the movement. I'm aligned with the movement. Things that are happening is the alignment with the movement, because the associates will manifest things for you when you're willing to change your mind in the Neo Shamanic way. You're willing to do containment, because that's changing your life. That's changing your daily routine. You're changing your the way you think, the way you are. You're literal changing your whole essence and vitality. When you change your essence and vitality to a higher vibration, it's harder and harder for density to feed on you, because you become like the heroin that's not diluted. If you can become the heroin that's not diluted, these dense entities, junkies, can't feed on you. And it gets easier and easier to be in a good mood, to feel happy, to really enjoy your own company. To when you feel alone, you don't feel like the program of loneliness, because your energy, you really respect and consider your closest companion. So how can you be alone? No matter where you are, you have a companion with you at all times. And you know, most people, their companions are sick and tired of whoever's running the mind because they're not being treated very well. But now, like Alona said, she's figuring out how she's thinking, and her body is like, yes, thank you for helping me. I'm going to treat you good. Thank you for treating me good. Thank you for understanding my language so that I can help us get to where we want to go. We want to be happy. We want to be balanced. We want things to go well in our lives. We want people to not be assholes. And you know what? People might still be assholes, but the way you feel about their asinine behavior changes. It's almost like if an ant on the sidewalk hated you, you wouldn't care, because they're just insects. They're just something that's passing by. It's just like when you're in your car, you don't stop on the road for every person that you see. You just keep going. You keep moving, always in motion. And excuse me, I'm purging. Like I have these dreams where weird things are happening. Like there's strange people to the left, strange people to the right, but it's like I don't care because I just keep walking. And that's really changed for me, because before I was always fighting, always running, because I believed that I was in danger. I believed that I had to fight the density, but instead I needed to change my mind. I needed to let go of the past, but I didn't know how. I didn't have any tools. But Chief gives tools to those who align themselves with the movement. These tools can be yours if you stay in respect and consideration for the tip of the spear and for the associates that are the movement, and they are the wind behind that spear. You just have to stay on the spear, stay doing your containment. Think about things, like Alona said, dissecting the way you think. Like I was reading this new age thing, and they're like, the reason you have a monkey mind is because you're identifying your problems too much and it's bringing you down. I'm like, how are you supposed to get better if you don't identify your problems? But it's also identifying the problems in a neo-shamanic perspective, because some people, they'll start thinking about all their problems and then they'll just have a panic attack and die or something, or they'll have a panic attack and then have an asthma attack and then end up in the hospital. And hospitals, places like schools, all these things, churches, even auditoriums, like the Olympics, things like that. All these places, it sounds really crazy, but they have a ton of black ooze underneath. This means consciousness that have been turned into dead batteries, and they're literally sitting underneath all these places so that they can trap people's consciousness. Because what happens, like for example, there was a client who, he was into football and sports, but he was also into creative things like music and art and things like that. And when he played football, it started killing his creativity, because it was very much of the yin of yin macho thing, very much competition, very much about winning and pushing other consciousness down and pushing yourself up. And so when you become more of yin and yin, you become more and more separate from supreme consciousness, separate from creativity, separate from being flexible in your consciousness, separate from being able to express and expand and explore those things. So when he went to the hospital because he was playing football and he had someone hit him in the head so hard he had a concussion, he ended up in the hospital, and literally Chief and I saw this part of him. It had long hair and it had chains on his hands and chains on his feet, and it was walking around in the hospital, and it was literally his creativity that was hit so hard out of him that it was absorbed in the black ooze and was wandering around in the hospital like a ghost. And Chief had to literally break the chains and put that creativity back in that person. So you'll see churches, they will beat the creativity out of you, because creativity is from supreme consciousness. Being able to create is from supreme consciousness. Be able to expand and explore and express yourself in balance is a part of supreme consciousness, and they will beat it out of you. Like in college, they will beat it out of you. You know, you have this weird, unique way of doing something, and it's not harming anyone, but you can't draw like that because I'm not teaching you how to draw like that. I'm Lemonhead, and you do what I tell you, when you want, when I tell you to, and how I tell you to, or else. It's not allowing you to be creative in the way that you eat, the way that you draw things, or the way that you express yourself. This is the way they force you. Go ahead. You have a question?
I know that Lemonhead is telling somebody that they have to contain fully and contain before they do their painting and everything, because it just welcomes in attachments and density.
Yes. So a lot of times when people have to fake it, they will make restrictions on people. Also, they will make up their own rules. That's what the yin of yin has created in this realm. A world full of rules. You can't go down the street. You can't do this. You can't do that. And then teaching people fear. Fear if you break the rules. Fear if you don't know the rules. Money, losing money. Like, for example, if you get a ticket, is a rule. You can't drive past the speed limit. Oh, but if you're riding in a limousine, you can drive past that speed limit, right? They create rules that benefit themselves. So Lemonhead would create rules so that he is in the above position, that he can overlord over you. He is the one you need to come to. Chief doesn't ask you to come to him because he needs someone to look up to him. He asks you to come to him so he can help you put your body parts together and your energy together and all your pieces and put your head back where it belongs. He doesn't need anyone's energy. And that's another way Lemonhead would feed his density, is to get you to do what he says, to believe in what he says. That's how witches work. They believe in the spell. They believe that they've been cursed. They believe in the curse. there was this woman that said that was it was an example of some woman who was cursed by some witch doctor, and she believed so much in his power that she died soon after, because belief is how density can manifest what they fear. What you fear, they can manifest because you're feeding them. And that's how Lemonhead would work too. Because women feared him, he felt powerful. Because women feared him, he fed off of them. Because women were doing everything he told them because they were afraid he was going to beat them up or what? They weren't sure. But they were feeling corkscrewed in their mind and confused. But it was all about feeding the density that is Lemonhead. And that applies to all different types of people. And you can tell because they want to be in the top position. They want to overlord over you. They want to tell you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. That's what sometimes parents are like that. You do what I say, when I tell you to, and else I'm going to beat you. But once you're grown up, they still want to treat you like that. It's like, I am actually 32 years old. I can think for myself. Like this woman that I call Mother Unit was trying to tell Chief, you're breaking up a family. What family? What, where you mistreat me? You lock me in a cage? I've had dreams where I saw the Mother Unit walking around with a bird cage the size of a human. And that bird cage was for me. All that time trying to keep me in a cage. And even right now, I'm a little too passionate about how she wanted to cage me. That means I have more that I need to release of my feeling towards the Mother Unit. I cannot hate her, because if I hate her, that means I believe she has power over me. If I hate her, that means I believe that she's hurt me. If I hate her, that means I believe that her density is stronger than me. When it's not about how strong I am, it's about the movement that I'm aligned with is stronger than her. It's not about me being powerful. It's not about me being so powerful. It's about my tool of containment that Chief gave me is stronger than her. So I'm not afraid. I will not feed that density. I will not hate her. I will let it go because I have the tools given to me by someone who has more power than she has, more power than her density, because that's who she really is. She is District 12. She is District 11. She is the density. So who am I really fearing? It would be the density that represents her. Who were people really fearing about Lemonhead? The density that was him, that is him. So I have to work on myself and say, you know what? Okay, this memory is fueling the hatred program for the Mother Unit. This memory is fueling the hatred program for the Mother Unit. This memory is feeling this or that. And then contain it, and then throw it in the vortex of no return, and then have a session and say, Chief, I'm really struggling with hatred for the Mother Unit. Is there anything you can see? Because I don't have the sight yet. I'm learning. I'm growing. Like we have someone, Nellie. She said, I'm the seed that Chief planted, and I'm growing. And that's what she says. You know, and I thought that's really creative. That's cool. You know, because she understands. You know, I'm at this point, and I'm not. You know, I'm being realistic that I know that my vibration has been lowered a lot. So it's not about me being stronger than the Mother Unit. It's about that my containment that Chief gave me is stronger than her. It's about my mind is changing so that I can be more balanced, so that that the density that represents the Mother Unit is not going to feed on me. That I will not fear them, because they have no power, they have no power, they have no power, and the power that they took was given to them. And I will not give the Mother Unit's density any more of my energy, any more of my power, any more of the hatred, any more of the anger that I had for her. That was feeding them. If I stop feeding them, they'll die. If I stop feeding them, they'll fade away to nothingness. If I stop feeding them, I will forget them entirely. If I stop feeding them, then they won't be able to hold me back. I will fly. I will be above all that nonsense. And that's why I tell I tell women about how women have destroyed other consciousness, females, consciousness in a female form have destroyed other consciousness. Consciousness in a male form have destroyed other consciousness so that they can see themselves as consciousness and literally fly, be above the program of seeing and identifying as the avatar, as the physical skin. You're above that. I will be above hatred. I will be above anger. I will be above the way that I felt that they wronged me, that the mother unit put me in a prison. I will release myself by taking each step and dissecting what I have and using the tool, Chief's tool, that is stronger than them. Because I used to be really caught up in power. Power this, power that. I was in power lifting. Even the concept of power, the way Yin of Yin defined it. I kept saying, I release the concept of power. I release the concept of power. I release the concept of beauty. I release the concept of fear. I release the concept of anger into the vortex of no return, because that's another tool that is more powerful than they are, because who created it is more powerful than them. And when I started doing that, I started literally going to the bathroom, and my purge was black, because black ooze was holding all the emotions of anger. The black ooze inside was holding the emotions of like freaking fear and anger and bitterness, all those. So every concept that is holding you with a cord has black ooze that's coupled with it. So it's not just the memory that you have, it's the black ooze you've collected that has to do with that concept. So maybe you're like, I release anger. I also release the black ooze that has to do with this anger into the vortex of no return. And keep trying, and then have a session to check where you are, because you don't want to throw yourself off, because your body is so used to holding black ooze that it can be really wigged out if you release too much at one time. It needs to recuperate to allow a more balanced energy to come in to fill that spot so that you can recuperate. My hands, when I would do that, releasing concepts like anger and hatred and bitterness, all the concept of power, literally my hands would swell up and I couldn't move my fingers, and I could get up until I was finished. And then I would have to sleep for a good while, because my body was just telling me, don't get up. We need to rest. That's why, like we talked about, when people have sessions with Chief, they get sleepy. Like some people on YouTube were trying to make fun of the women's forum because they're like, people look sleepy. And I was like, information that is higher vibrational can make a lower vibrational body feel sleepy, because it has to recuperate, because it's absorbing an energy and vibration that's higher. When I'm talking on the women's forum, associates are bringing in an energy that is higher vibrational, which can make your body feel sleepy or make you want to take a nap, which happens when Chief talks too, because on October 13th, he's doing a new thing called #AskTheChief. So if you have guy friends, or that are like, man, it's not fair, there's only a women's forum, this is for them. And also for you, fellow consciousness, you can join it too and ask any questions. You can even create a long list for me, and I'll just go through them one after another for Chief. And I would just love to do that. So you can ask any questions like, what about the moon? What are stars? If stars are consciousness, how does that work? If Gaia is a planet and she's a consciousness, what's her purge look like? Or like, how are things changing? Or what does UFOs mean to me? Or what does UFOs have to do with anything that's happening? That because 2020 is pretty wild. And all these kinds of questions. Or if what does it mean to be your higher consciousness? Or what are some basic programs that you feel that men deal with or females deal with, and what does that look like? So we have 1 more minute, so I can take any question. Woo, purge. Oh, if there's no question, I can just end it with this, that if you find yourself purging a lot, or your nose is running, or you have to go to the bathroom constantly, that's really great. It's your closest companion trying to help you out, because your mind is changing. That's what's causing the physical purge, because your mental state is changing. When your mental state changes, like I said, your body follows. That's what the purge is about. Your body following the new mentality you're trying to create with this new Neo Shamanic information that can change everything in your existence. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. It's been a real pleasure to talk with you, as always. I hope to see you next month, and take care. Bye-bye.